The story begins with a mystery that baffled the entertainment industry for the better part of a year. After Roberts secured the most dominant victory in American Idol history, shattering records with 26 million votes in a single night, the world expected a relentless media blitz. We expected the talk show circuit, the luxury brand endorsements, and the immediate release of a polished pop album. Instead, the man they called the Anointed One went dark. In the early months of 2026, the vibrant, soulful voice that had the nation seemed to retreat into the shadows of the Magnolia State. For those of us in the press, the silence was deafening. We tracked him back to Meridian, where the former PE teacher was seen not in recording studios, but in quiet meetings with urban planners, software engineers, and community organizers. His neighbors spoke of a man who still picked up his daughters from school, but spent his nights illuminated by the glow of a different kind of ambition. This wasn't a retreat, it was a tactical withdrawal. Was leveraging his unprecedented platform to build something that required more than just a melody. He was hibernating, not out of exhaustion, but out of a profound sense of duty to the 26 million people who had placed their faith in him. The industry called it a career gamble, but as we would soon learn, was playing a game the industry didn't even know existed. The first crack in the secrecy appeared during the 41st annual King Holiday observance. Wasn't there as a musical guest to sing a tribute, he was there as a strategist. Sitting alongside tech titans like NVIDIA's Wright, looked remarkably at home in the world of high-level social engineering. This was the moment the secret project began to take a defined shape in the public consciousness. During the panel, didn't speak about his vocal range. He spoke about engineered empathy. He proposed that the same light he felt on stage, a spiritual and emotional connection, could be systematized to serve underrepresented communities. This wasn't the typical platitudes of a celebrity philanthropist. He was discussing the intersection of art and infrastructure. It was here that he first hinted at Project Meridian 2026, describing it as a digital and physical sanctuary for the next generation. For the first time, the narrative shifted from what will sing next to what is building. The news cycle was set ablaze. We began to realize that the PE teacher who moved Jelly Roll to tears wasn't just a singer. He was a student of the same civil rights leaders he was now being honored alongside. He was taking the no from his past auditions and turning it into a blueprint for a collective yes for the entire South. As our investigative team dug deeper, the sheer scope of Project Meridian began to emerge from the classified documents and whispered rumors of Disney and ABC executives. This was a multi-platform ecosystem designed to revitalize rural Southern economies through a fusion of music and technology. The secret project was revealed to be a series of creative arts and technology, CAT centers, the first of which was secretly being constructed in a repurposed warehouse in downtown Meridian. These weren't just community centers. They were high-tech hubs equipped with professional recording studios, coding labs, and AI-driven creative tools. Had secured funding not by selling his soul to a label, but by pitching a self-sustaining social enterprise model to ethical investors. The project aimed to bridge the digital divide in the New South, using fame as the magnet to draw resources into areas that had been historically neglected. The brilliance of the project lay in its integration. A student could come in to learn a bass line and leave knowing how to program a synthesizer. It was a physical manifestation of belief that creativity and literacy are the same language. By the time the foundations were poured, the secret project was no longer just a rumor. It was a beacon of hope that was already attracting interest from urban centers across the country, proving that the heart of Mississippi could lead the nation in innovation. Perhaps the most shocking element of the 2026 reveal was collaboration with leading AI researchers to develop a specialized therapeutic curriculum. During his time on American Idol, his performance of his single Heal was praised for its emotional resonance, but wanted to go further. He spent months working with neuroscientists to create an AI-driven music therapy program tailored for underfunded school systems. This Music in Mind curriculum used biometric feedback and its own anointed vocal frequencies to help children manage stress, trauma, and emotional regulation. In a country grappling with a youth mental health crisis, this was a revolutionary application of celebrity influence. We spoke to educators in Meridian who were part of the secret pilot program. They described children who had previously been nonverbal or disruptive finding their voice through digital interface. This wasn't just edutainment. It was a clinical, data-backed approach to emotional intelligence. Had turned his most famous song into a living, breathing tool for recovery. This was the moment the world realized wasn't interested in being a star. He wanted to be a solution. He was using the cutting edge of Silicon Valley to solve the problems of the Deep South, proving that a PE teacher from elementary understood the needs of the modern classroom better than any boardroom executive. The power of Roberts in 2026 cannot be overstated without looking at the sheer math of his influence. The 26 million votes he received during the Idol finale were more than just a win. They were a mandate. Understood this better than anyone. He used this voter base as a form of social currency to force major corporations to the table. In a series of closed-door meetings that we've now confirmed, negotiated a social ethics agreement with streaming giants and tech firms. He essentially told them, "My 26 million followers will go where I go." He used this leverage to ensure that the data and profits generated by Project Meridian stayed within the communities it served. This was in modern power dynamics. He didn't just take a paycheck. He took a seat at the head of the table. He turned the American dream into a community reality. We interviewed a former network executive who admitted, "We tried to give him the standard winner's package." He laughed and showed us a 50-page business plan for the revitalization of the Mississippi Delta instead. This wasn't a man who was lucky to be there. This was a man who knew exactly what his voice was worth and refused to sell it for anything less than systemic change. The phrase anointed followed from his first audition, but in 2026, that spiritual quality translated into a unique form of leadership. Watching navigate the high-stakes world of corporate philanthropy was like watching in love-centered work. He didn't use the aggressive, cutthroat tactics of traditional CEOs. Instead, he led with the same vulnerability and soulful depth that had captivated Lionel and Underwood. This secret project succeeded because was able to convince cynical billionaires that their legacy would be better served by building schools than by buying yachts. He brought the church to the boardroom, not through religion, but through a shared sense of human purpose. I sat in on one of his final planning sessions for the CAT centers, and the atmosphere was unlike anything I've seen in 20 years of reporting. There was no ego, only a relentless focus on the end of the world, the children who were the literal and figurative inspiration for his journey. His ability to remain grounded while flying at the highest levels of global influence became the project's secret weapon. He wasn't just the face of the brand, he was the moral compass of the movement. While Project Meridian was a technological and social breakthrough, it never lost its musical heartbeat. In mid-2026, it was revealed that it had been quietly recording a collaborative album with R&B and gospel legends like Brandy and Monica. But the project wasn't for the Billboard charts. Each track was tied to a specific initiative within the CAT centers. For example, a song about resilience would unlock a scholarship fund for students in the coding program. These legends weren't just featured artists, they were founding partners in the foundation. This move fundamentally changed the celebrity feature model. It wasn't about two stars singing together, it was about two legacies merging to fund a future. The secret project thus had a soundtrack that echoed the soul of the South while providing the financial engine for its growth. The music was described by those who heard the early cuts as technological gospel, a fusion of organic soul and futuristic production that mirrored the centers themselves. Was proving that art could be the light and the house simultaneously, creating a beautiful, self-sustaining loop of inspiration and investment. When the secrecy was finally lifted in a surprise global broadcast, it didn't look like a standard product launch. There was no stage in Silicon Valley or a red carpet in Hollywood. Appeared on a simple screen from the gymnasium of his old school in Meridian. He was wearing a shirt from a local business, looking every bit the father and teacher the world had fallen in love with. The broadcast was less of a press release and more of a revival for the digital age. He spoke directly to the cameras about his journey from a 2-year-old singing in church to a man who had seen the top of the mountain and decided to bring the mountain back home. "I told the judges I wanted to bring light back to mine," he said, "but I realized light is only useful if you build a house for it to shine in." The moment he hit the activate button on the Project Meridian platform, the server maps showed thousands of schools across the globe lighting up as they gained access to his curriculum. It was a breathtaking moment of synchronized progress. The secret was out. Roberts hadn't just won a talent show. He had launched a global movement for creative equity. By the end of 2026, the impact of Project Meridian had begun to reshape the identity of the American South. The region, often portrayed through the lens of its past struggles, was now being heralded as a hub for ethical innovation. Roberts became the face of this new South, a symbol of how traditional values of faith, family, and community could be supercharged by modern technology. The CAT centers in Meridian and beyond were reporting higher graduation rates and a surge in local entrepreneurship. Remained a constant presence in these centers, often seen helping a student with a vocal run or a line of code. He refused to move to Los Angeles or New York, staying rooted in the soil that raised him. This commitment to place was perhaps the most radical part of the project. He proved that you don't have to leave home to change the world. You just have to bring the world's attention to your home. His legacy was no longer measured in record sales, but in the brick-and-mortar opportunities he created for kids who used to sit in his gym class. As the year drew to a close, I caught up with one last time at elementary. He was standing in the same gym where his journey began, watching a group of students use a tablet to compose a symphony. I asked him if he ever missed the simplicity of being just a teacher. He looked at the kids, then back at me with that same twinkle in his eye that had charmed millions. "Sarah," he said, "I never stopped being a teacher. The classroom just got a little bigger." The 2026 Secret Project wasn't about Roberts. It was about the potential he saw in every person who had ever been told no. His final lesson was that a single voice, when used with intention, can harmonize with millions to create a song that changes the very structure of society. Roberts didn't just shock the world with a secret project. He gave the world a new way to hope. As the bell rang for the final time that year, it was clear that the Anointed One had finally completed his greatest performance, one that wouldn't end when the credits rolled, but would echo through the lives of every student who now knew they, too, could be the light. This has been Sarah Vance for Global Insight.